I was sitting at my own dining table watching my daughter-in-law Janelle go through my family jewelry box piece by piece, deciding which items she'd keep safe for me and which ones weren't worth maintaining. When she held up my grandmother's ruby brooch and said, "This is gaudy. I'll sell it and put the money in your care account." The brooch my grandmother wore on her wedding day in 1911. The brooch that had passed through 4 generations. The brooch worth approximately $47,000 according to the last appraisal. Janelle was holding it between 2 fingers like it was costume jewelry from a discount store, talking about selling it to fund an account I'd never agreed to open. "That's not for sale. Dolores, you're not thinking clearly. You can't wear this stuff anymore. You're 79. Where would you even wear a ruby brooch? It's just sitting in this box collecting dust while you need money for care. I'm being practical." I looked at her, at the jewelry box she'd opened without asking, at the pieces spread across my table, my mother's pearl necklace, my wedding ring set, my aunt's sapphire earrings, family heirlooms spanning a century. "I didn't ask you to go through my jewelry. Someone has to manage your assets, Dolores. Sterling and I have been discussing your situation. You can't live alone much longer. You need assisted living. These pieces can fund that transition." My situation. Like I was a problem to solve instead of a person living my life. I didn't yell, didn't grab the jewelry back, didn't argue about my competence or her authority. I just looked at Janelle, 42 years old, married to my son Sterling for 6 years, always financially struggling, always asking for money. And I understood exactly what was happening. This wasn't about my care. This was about my assets, about valuable jewelry that could solve her money problems if she could convince me to sell it. "Put the jewelry back in the box." "Dolores, I'm trying to help you." "Put it back now." She did, but the resentment on her face was clear. "You're being difficult. Sterling warned me you'd resist practical planning. But Dolores, we're trying to protect you from yourself." After she left, I sat looking at the jewelry box, at the heirlooms she'd been cataloging, at the pieces she'd already mentally sold. That was the moment I understood something important. Janelle and Sterling had been planning this, had discussed my situation, had decided I needed assisted living, had calculated how my assets could fund it. I hadn't been consulted, hadn't been asked. They just decided, and now they were executing their plan. I thought about everything I'd given them over the years. The down payment for their house, $85,000. The car I'd bought Sterling, $32,000. The loans that were never repaid, another $40,000. The furniture, the appliances, the constant bailouts when they overspent. I'd given them everything they asked for, supported them, helped them. And now they were going through my jewelry, planning to sell my family heirlooms to fund a living arrangement I'd never agreed to. I didn't react with anger. I calculated. If I fought them directly, they'd say I was being difficult, irrational, unable to manage my own affairs. But if I stepped back, if I stopped giving, stopped helping, stopped being available, I'd see very clearly what they really wanted. Not a relationship with me, access to my assets. So that's what I did. I stepped back. And that's when things shifted. They thought I was broken, thought I'd just accept their plans, thought my silence meant compliance. That was their first mistake. Now listen, before I tell you what happened when I gave them everything for years and then suddenly stopped, before I show you what people reveal when the money stops flowing, I need you to do something. If you're watching this and you've ever been taken advantage of by people who called it love, hit subscribe right now. Comment where you're from, because what happened when I stepped back and watched them scramble, you need to hear every second. Turn on notifications. This goes places they never imagined. The jewelry incident happened on a Tuesday. By Friday, I'd made several quiet changes. First, I called my bank. I need to freeze all external access to my accounts. No one but me can authorize withdrawals or transfers. The banker, Marcus Webb, knew me well. I'd banked there for 32 years. "Mrs. Chen, is everything all right?" "Everything's fine. I'm just securing my accounts. Marcus, I also need to know, does anyone have power of attorney over my finances? Let me check. Pause. No formal power of attorney on file. But Mrs. Chen, we do have Sterling Chen listed as a secondary account holder on your checking account. He can access funds without your signature. My son had access to my checking account. I'd added him years ago when I had surgery. For emergencies, I'd said. That was 8 years ago. Remove him. Immediately. He should have no access to any of my accounts. I can do that today. Mrs. Chen, should I be concerned? Is someone trying to access your money inappropriately? Not trying. Planning. Marcus, I need everything locked down. No one but me has authority over my money. Consider it done. Second, I called my attorney, Patricia H. Wang. Patricia, I need to review my will and all my estate documents, today if possible. Dolores, what's wrong? My daughter-in-law was going through my jewelry yesterday planning to sell pieces without my permission. She mentioned an account I never authorized. I need to make sure my estate is protected and that my current will reflects my actual wishes. Come in this afternoon. We'll review everything. At Patricia's office, I learned several concerning things. My will was 12 years old, left everything to Sterling. No conditions, no protections, just a simple transfer of all assets to my son upon my death. Dolores, with an estate your size, this is inadequate. You have your annuity from the teacher's pension, $68,000 annually. You have savings of approximately $340,000. You own your condo outright, worth about $425,000. You have the jewelry collection, worth at least $200,000. Total estate value approaching $1.1 million. A simple will leaving everything to Sterling provides no protection. No tax planning, no contingencies. What if Sterling dies before me? Then everything goes to his heirs, which would be Janelle unless they have children. They didn't have children, so if Sterling died first, everything went to Janelle, the woman who'd been cataloging my jewelry like she already owned it. I want to change my will, create a trust, add protections. Patricia, I want to make sure that if something happens to me, my assets are distributed according to my actual wishes, not according to who's standing closest when I die. What are your actual wishes? I thought about that carefully. The jewelry goes to my niece Rosalind. She's the only other family member who understands its historical value. The condo gets sold and the proceeds divided. Half to Rosalind, half to the Asian American Scholarship Fund I've supported for years. The savings and pension, I want them in a trust that provides income to Sterling but prevents him from accessing the principal. That way, if he or Janelle try to liquidate everything, they can't. You're protecting your assets from your own son. I'm protecting my legacy from people who see it as a problem to liquidate rather than a life I built. Patricia, Sterling has shown me that he'll go along with whatever Janelle wants. If she wants my jewelry sold, he'll support it. If she wants me in assisted living so they can access my assets, he'll agree. I'm not punishing him. I'm being realistic about what he'll do under her influence. Patricia drafted new estate documents that afternoon. I signed them the next morning. Everything protected, everything conditional, everything designed to prevent exactly what Janelle had been planning. Third, I did something that felt petty but necessary. I changed my emergency contact from Sterling to Rosalind, my niece who lived 2 hours away but who'd always been honest with me. If I had a medical emergency, Sterling wouldn't be the one called, wouldn't be the one making decisions, wouldn't have the opportunity Janelle was clearly waiting for. Then I waited, didn't tell Sterling about any of these changes, didn't explain or defend, just secured everything quietly and waited to see what would happen. 3 days after the jewelry incident, Sterling called. Mom, Janelle mentioned she was helping you organize your valuables. That's good. We've been worried about you managing everything alone. I didn't ask Janelle to organize my valuables. She went through my jewelry without permission. Well, yes, but Mom, she's trying to help. We think it's time to start planning for your future care. You're 79, living alone. What if something happens? I have a medical alert system. I have neighbors who check on me. I'm managing fine, Sterling. For now, but Mom, we need to be proactive. Janelle's researched some excellent assisted living communities. We'd like to tour them with you. Start getting on waiting lists. I'm not interested in assisted living. Not now, but eventually you will be. And these places have long waiting lists. We need to plan ahead. Sterling, when I need assisted living, I'll make that decision myself. I don't need you and Janelle planning my future without consulting me. We are consulting you. Right now. Mom, this is what responsible children do. We help our parents transition to appropriate care before crisis forces bad decisions. I'm not in crisis. I'm living independently and competently. Sterling, I appreciate your concern, but I'm not touring assisted living facilities I don't need. Silence. Then, Mom, are you sure you're thinking clearly about this? Janelle mentioned you seemed confused when she was trying to help with your jewelry. There it was, the suggestion that I was confused, unable to make good decisions, needing help whether I wanted it or not. I wasn't confused. I was clear that I didn't want her going through my belongings without permission. Sterling, that's not confusion. That's boundary setting. If you say so, but Mom, we're going to keep pushing this. Because we love you, because we want what's best for you, even if you don't see it right now. After he hung up, I sat thinking about that conversation, about the way Sterling framed everything as help, as love, as responsible planning. But underneath the language was a clear message. They decided I needed assisted living. They decided my assets should fund it, and they weren't going to let my disagreement stop them. I didn't argue. I remembered. I remembered that Sterling and Janelle were chronically in debt, that they'd asked me for money countless times, that they'd never repaid the loans I'd given them. And I remembered that my $1.1 million estate looked like a solution to their problems if they could gain control of it. That evening, Rosalind called. Aunt Dolores, I got your message about being your emergency contact. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. I'm just updating my information. Rosalind, can I ask you something? If I needed help, real help, not manipulation disguised as help, would you be available? Of course. Aunt Dolores, what's happening? Sterling and Janelle are pushing for me to move to assisted living. They've been going through my belongings, making plans for my future without consulting me. Rosalind, I think they're trying to gain control of my assets. Do you want me to talk to Sterling? No, I want you to be aware, to be ready if they escalate. Rosalind, I've changed my will, updated my estate documents, protected everything. But I need someone I trust to know what's happening. I'm here, whatever you need. That conversation mattered, because it meant I wasn't alone, wasn't isolated. Had someone who'd believe me if Sterling and Janelle tried to paint me as confused or incompetent. 1 week after the jewelry incident, I stopped answering Sterling's calls, stopped responding to texts, stopped being available. Not out of anger, out of strategy. If they needed something from me, they'd have to work for it. No more automatic access, no more assumed availability. I wanted to see what they'd do when I wasn't immediately responsive. 2 days of silence, then Sterling showed up at my condo, unannounced. Mom, you haven't been answering your phone. We were worried. I've been busy. Doing what? Living my life. Sterling, I'm 79, not 99. I don't need to report my activities to you. We just want to make sure you're okay. I'm fine. Was there something specific you needed? Actually, yes. Janelle and I are having some cash flow issues. We were hoping you could help us out. Just $5,000 to get through the month. We'll pay you back. There it was, the real reason for the visit. Not concern about my well-being, need for money. No. What? No, I'm not loaning you money. Mom, we're in a tight spot. The mortgage payment is due and we're short. That's not my problem. Sterling, you and Janelle make decent money. If you can't cover your mortgage, you need to budget better. I'm not bailing you out. But you've helped us before. Yes, I have. I've given you $157,000 over the past 6 years. Down payments, car purchases, loans. You never repaid furniture, appliances, emergency bailouts. Sterling, I've given you everything you've asked for. And now you're going through my jewelry planning to sell it. Now you're pushing me toward assisted living I don't need. Now you're suggesting I'm confused when I set boundaries. I'm done helping you. Mom, you're being unreasonable. I'm being clear. No more money, no more bailouts, no more access to my accounts or my belongings. Sterling, you're an adult. Figure out your own finances. He left angry, and I sat in my quiet condo, thinking about what I'd just done. I'd cut off the money, stopped being the bank, stopped being available for endless bailouts. Now I'd see what happened. Now I'd see what they really wanted from me. The answer came faster than I expected. 3 days after refusing the $5,000, I got a call from a social worker named Linda Morrison. Mrs. Chen, I'm calling from Adult Protective Services. We received a report expressing concern about your welfare. The caller indicated you're living alone, showing signs of confusion, and may be unable to manage your own care. I need to schedule a home visit to assess your situation. Who filed the report? The reports are confidential, but it came from a family member expressing genuine concern. Sterling or Janelle. Had to be. I'd refused them money, so they'd filed a false report to APS hopping to get me declared incompetent. I'm happy to have you visit. When would you like to come? Tomorrow at 10 a.m. if that works. Perfect, I'll be here. After the call, I prepared, cleaned my already clean condo, organized my already organized medications, made sure everything looked perfect. If they wanted to play the incompetence card, I'd prove I was sharper than all of them combined. Linda Morrison arrived exactly at 10 a.m. She was professional, kind, thorough. She walked through my condo, checked my refrigerator, looked at my medications, asked questions about my daily routine, my health, my ability to manage my affairs. After an hour, she sat down with me. Mrs. Chen, I see no evidence of confusion or inability to manage your care. Your home is well maintained. Your medications are organized correctly. You're articulate and aware. You don't need APS services. Can I ask what the specific allegations were? Linda checked her notes. The report claimed you were showing memory loss, making poor financial decisions, living in unsafe conditions, and resisting family help. Mrs. Chen, none of that appears to be true. Your memory is fine. Your home is safe. And resisting family help isn't a sign of incompetence, it's autonomy. The person who filed the report, did they mention wanting me to move to assisted living? Yes, they said they were concerned you'd refuse necessary care due to confusion. Mrs. Chen, has your family been pressuring you to move? Yes, my son and daughter-in-law want me in assisted living. I've refused. I think they filed this report to create documentation that I'm incompetent. Linda's expression hardened. That would be filing a false report. That's a serious offense. Mrs. Chen, I'm going to note in my report that this appears to be a malicious filing. If your family continues this pattern, you may want to consider a restraining order. After Linda left, I called Patricia immediately. My son or daughter-in-law filed a false APS report, claimed I was confused and unsafe. The social worker found no evidence of any problems and suspects malicious filing. That's elder abuse. Dolores, you need to document this. If they're trying to manufacture evidence of incompetence, they're building a guardianship case. We need to be ready to fight it. What should I do? Get a comprehensive medical evaluation, cognitive testing, full health assessment. Document that you're completely competent, then wait. If they try to file for guardianship, we'll have everything we need to prove they're lying. I scheduled the medical evaluation for the following week. Dr. Raymond Foster had been my physician for 18 years. He understood what I needed. Comprehensive cognitive testing, memory evaluation, mental status examination, full physical health assessment. After 3 hours of testing, Dr. Foster gave me the results. Dolores, your cognitive function is excellent, memory intact, reasoning sharp. Mental status completely normal. You're as competent as anyone I evaluate. I'll write a detailed letter documenting this. If anyone tries to claim you're declining, you'll have medical proof that you're not. The letter was 4 pages long. Thorough, professional, unambiguous. I was competent, capable, not declining. I gave copies to Patricia, kept copies for myself, prepared for whatever came next. Because I knew Sterling and Janelle weren't done. The APS report failing meant they'd try something else, something more aggressive. I didn't have to wait long. 1 week after the APS visit, Sterling and Janelle showed up at my condo together, both looking serious, both clearly prepared for confrontation. "Mom, we need to talk. About your finances, about your future, about the fact that you're making decisions that concern us." "My decisions are my business, not yours." "When those decisions affect our inheritance, they become our business," Janelle said. "Dolores, we know you've changed your will, cut Sterling out, given everything to Rosalind and some charity. That's not fair." How did they know about my will change? I hadn't told anyone except Patricia and Rosalind. "How do you know about my will?" Janelle looked uncomfortable. Sterling answered, "We may have found some documents when we were helping you organize." They'd gone through my papers, without permission, looking for information about my estate. "You went through my private documents." "We were helping." "You were snooping. Sterling, you and Janelle have been planning to take control of my assets, going through my jewelry, my papers, my finances, filing false reports, pressuring me into assisted living I don't need. This isn't help. This is a campaign to gain control of my money." "We're protecting you." "From what? From living my own life? From making my own choices? Sterling, I changed my will because you've shown me I can't trust you with my estate. You went through my belongings without permission. You tried to sell my family heirlooms. You filed a false APS report when I refused to give you money. Those aren't the actions of someone who deserves to inherit everything I've built. That money should be ours. We're your family." There it was, the real feeling, not love, entitlement. They thought my money was theirs, that they deserved it simply for being related to me. "My money is mine. My estate is mine to distribute as I choose. Sterling, if you want to inherit from me, you'll need to show me I can trust you. Right now, you've shown me the opposite." They left furious, and I knew I'd crossed a point of no return. This was war now. They'd fight for my assets, try everything they could to gain control. But I was ready. I'd stepped back. I'd secured everything. I'd documented their manipulation. And now, I'd watch them reveal exactly how far they were willing to go. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about Sterling's face when Janelle had said that money should be ours. My son, the child I'd raised, the person I'd supported and loved and helped for 46 years. He'd looked at me and seen a bank account, an inheritance, an obstacle between him and money he felt entitled to. When had that happened? When had I become a resource instead of a person to him? I didn't know, but I knew this. I'd given them everything they'd asked for years, without hesitation. And the moment I stepped back, the moment I stopped giving, everything shifted. They'd shown me who they really were, what they really wanted, what I really meant to them. Not a mother, a means to an end. And now that I'd seen that clearly, I could never unsee it. 3 days after the confrontation, something happened that showed me they were more desperate than I'd realized. And more dangerous. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of someone in my condo. Footsteps, quiet, deliberate, in my office. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, whispered my address and that someone had broken into my home. Then I waited, in my bedroom, door locked, heart pounding. The footsteps moved through my office, papers rustling, drawers opening, someone searching for something. Police arrived within 8 minutes. I heard them enter, heard shouting, heard someone running. Then a knock on my bedroom door. "Mrs. Chen, this is Officer Davis. It's safe to come out." I opened the door. 2 officers stood in my hallway. In my living room, handcuffed and sitting on my couch, was Janelle. "Do you know this person?" Officer Davis asked. "That's my daughter-in-law, Janelle Chen. She was in your office going through your file cabinets. Says she has a key and was checking on you. Is that true?" "She has a key from when they helped me after surgery years ago. But I never gave her permission to enter my home at 2 a.m., and I certainly didn't give her permission to go through my files." Officer Davis turned to Janelle. "Ma'am, you entered someone's home without permission at 2 a.m. and went through their private documents. That's breaking and entering. You're under arrest." "This is ridiculous. I'm family. I have a key. Dolores, tell them this is a misunderstanding." I looked at Janelle, at my daughter-in-law caught in my home in the middle of the night, going through my private papers. "It's not a misunderstanding. I didn't give you permission to be here. I want to press charges." "Dolores, I'm your family. Family doesn't break into homes at 2 a.m. Family doesn't go through private documents without permission. Officer, please remove her from my property." After they took Janelle away, Officer Davis stayed to take my full statement. "Mrs. Chen, what was she looking for?" "I recently changed my will, cut them out of my inheritance. I think she was looking for estate documents, trying to find out exactly what I'd changed." "Has there been a pattern of this kind of behavior?" I told him everything. The jewelry incident, the APS report, the pressure for assisted living, the confrontation about my will, the campaign to gain control of my assets. Officer Davis took notes on everything. "Mrs. Chen, this is elder financial exploitation. The breaking and entering charge will stick, but you should also consider filing for a restraining order. This pattern suggests your daughter-in-law won't stop unless legally forced to." "I'll talk to my attorney." After Officer Davis left, I couldn't go back to sleep. I sat in my living room thinking about Janelle in handcuffs, about my daughter-in-law being arrested in my home. Part of me felt guilty. She was family, Sterling's wife. I'd just had her arrested. But a larger part felt relief, because now there was official documentation, police reports, criminal charges, evidence of what they'd been doing. At 6 a.m., Sterling called, furious. "Mom, Janelle called me from jail. You had her arrested for coming to check on you. She broke into my home at 2 a.m. and went through my private files. Sterling, that's a crime. She has a key. She was worried about you." At 2 a.m., going through my file cabinets, Sterling, she was looking for my estate documents. She was spying. This is insane. You're turning family concern into criminal charges. Mom, what's happened to you? You used to be reasonable. I used to let you take advantage of me. I stopped, and now you're seeing the difference. We're trying to help you. You're trying to control my money. There's a difference. Sterling, I'm not dropping the charges. Janelle committed a crime. She faces consequences. He hung up on me, and I sat with the weight of that decision. I just had my daughter-in-law arrested, had refused to drop charges, had chosen legal consequences over family harmony. Was I being too harsh? Should I have just told her to leave and let it go? No, because letting it go meant they'd try again, meant they'd escalate, meant they'd keep pushing until they got what they wanted. This had to stop, and the only way to stop it was consequences severe enough that they'd never try again. Later that morning, Patricia called. "Dolores, I heard about the arrest. Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Shaken, but fine. Patricia, I need that restraining order against both Sterling and Janelle. I need legal protection from them." "I'll file today. Dolores, the breaking and entering charge combined with the pattern we've documented, false APS report, harassment, attempted asset manipulation. We have a strong case for a permanent restraining order." "Good. I don't want them near me. I don't want them in my home. I don't want them having any access to my life." The restraining order hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. In the meantime, Janelle was released on bail. Sterling paid it, $5,000, money he'd told me they didn't have for their mortgage. Apparently they had money for bail, just not for their bills. 1 week after the arrest, I received a letter from an attorney I'd never heard of. Marcus Brennan, representing Sterling and Janelle Chen. Dear Mrs. Chen, my clients are deeply concerned about your recent erratic behavior. Filing false criminal charges against your daughter-in-law, isolating yourself from family, making impulsive changes to estate documents. These behaviors suggest possible cognitive decline or undue influence from third parties. My clients are exploring legal options to ensure your welfare, including potential guardianship proceedings. We encourage you to seek independent medical evaluation and consider reconciling with your family before legal intervention becomes necessary. Sincerely, Marcus Brennan-esque. Guardianship. They were threatening to file for guardianship, to have me declared incompetent, to take legal control of my life and my money. I called Patricia immediately. They're threatening guardianship, claiming I'm showing erratic behavior and cognitive decline. Do you have the medical evaluation from Dr. Foster? Yes, 4-page letter documenting my complete competence. Perfect. Dolores, let them file for guardianship. We'll demolish their case in court. You have medical proof of competence. You have documentation of their manipulation. You have police reports of their crimes. If they file for guardianship, they'll lose and it'll be public record that they tried to steal from you. So I should just let them try. Yes, don't respond to the attorney's letter. Don't engage, just wait. If they file, we'll fight it and win. And Dolores, winning a guardianship case will permanently discredit them. No court will ever believe them again. I followed Patricia's advice, didn't respond to the letter, just waited. The restraining order hearing came first. I sat in the courtroom with Patricia. Sterling and Janelle sat across the aisle with their attorney. The judge reviewed the evidence. Police reports from the breaking and entering, documentation of the false APS report, my statement about the jewelry incident and the pressure tactics. Then the judge asked Janelle to explain why she'd entered my home at 2 a.m. Your Honor, I was concerned about my mother-in-law. She'd been acting strangely, not answering calls. I thought something might be wrong. I used my key to check on her and I was looking for emergency contact information when she called the police. At 2 a.m., you thought checking on someone required breaking into their home in the middle of the night. I was worried. You were snooping. Ms. Chen, you entered someone's home without permission and went through their private papers. The police report indicates you were in the office, going through file cabinets. That's not checking on someone's welfare. That's searching for something. What were you looking for? Janelle looked at her attorney. He nodded. I was looking for medical information, power of attorney documents, things we'd need if she had an emergency. Did Mrs. Chen ask you to look for these things? No, but... Then you had no right to be there. Ms. Chen, this court finds a pattern of invasive behavior. Combined with the documented false APS report and the harassment Mrs. Chen has detailed, I'm granting a temporary restraining order. You and your husband are to have no contact with Mrs. Chen for 6 months. No calls, no texts, no visits, no contact of any kind. Violation will result in arrest. Do you understand? Your Honor, she's my husband's mother. We can't have no contact for 6 months. You should have thought about that before you broke into her home. The order is granted. This hearing is adjourned. After the hearing, Patricia and I walked to her car. 6 months of no contact. Dolores, you've bought yourself time. Use it to secure everything else. Change locks, update all passwords, make sure they have no access to anything. What about the guardianship threat? They might still file, but that restraining order helps our case. The judge just ruled that their behavior is harassing and invasive. That makes it much harder for them to argue their concerned family members trying to help. I spent the next week securing everything, changed all my locks, updated every password, removed Sterling from every emergency contact list, made sure he had no access to any aspect of my life. And I waited for the guardianship petition, for them to make their final move. It came 3 weeks after the restraining order. Legal notice that Sterling Chen was filing for emergency guardianship over Dolores Chen, claiming she was unable to manage her own affairs due to cognitive decline and was at risk of exploitation. The irony was staggering. Sterling claiming I was at risk of exploitation while he was the one trying to exploit me. The hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks out. Patricia and I prepared carefully. We had Dr. Foster's evaluation, the APS report showing no concerns, the police reports documenting Sterling and Janelle's crimes, the restraining order, my financial records showing competent money management. Everything we needed to prove I was completely capable, and they were lying. 2 weeks before the hearing, something happened that changed everything. Rosalind called. "Aunt Dolores, I need to tell you something about Sterling and Janelle's finances. I think you should know before the hearing." "What is it?" "I have a friend who works at the credit bureau. She ran their credit report as a favor. Aunt Dolores, they're drowning. They owe $340,000. Credit cards, personal loans, a second mortgage. They're months behind on everything. Creditors are threatening foreclosure and repossession." $340,000. How did they accumulate that much debt? Living beyond their means for years. They make decent money, but they spend like they make twice that. Expensive cars, designer clothes, luxury vacations. They've been borrowing to maintain a lifestyle they can't afford. And Aunt Dolores, I found something else. They took out a life insurance policy on you. $500,000. Sterling is the beneficiary. I felt cold. When? 8 months ago, right before they started pressuring you about assisted living. 8 months ago, before the jewelry incident, before the APS report, before any of this started. They'd taken out life insurance on me, and then started a campaign to gain control of my assets and potentially my care. "Rosalind, can you get me copies of everything? The credit report, the insurance policy, all of it." "I'll email it tonight." That evening, I reviewed the documents Rosalind sent. The debt was worse than she'd described. $340,000 owed, minimum payments they couldn't afford, accounts in collections. And the life insurance policy, $500,000, premium payments of $3,200 annually, Sterling as sole beneficiary. They'd been paying $3,200 a year to insure my life, while telling me they couldn't afford their mortgage. I called Patricia immediately. They took out a life insurance policy on me, $500,000, $8 months before they started trying to gain control of my assets. Silence. Then, "Dolores, that's concerning. Combined with the guardianship filing and their financial desperation, this creates a very dangerous pattern." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying desperate people do desperate things. Dolores, if they gain guardianship and control over your care, and you die shortly after, they get $500,000 plus your estate. That's motive." "Motive for what?" "For harming you. Dolores, I'm not saying they definitely do it, but the pattern is there. Life insurance, crushing debt, attempts to gain control. If we present this at the guardianship hearing, the judge needs to understand what's really motivating this petition." The hearing was 2 weeks away. I spent those weeks preparing, reviewing evidence, practicing testimony, making sure I could articulate clearly and calmly exactly what had happened. The day of the hearing, I arrived early, sat in the courtroom with Patricia, watched Sterling and Janelle enter with their attorney. Sterling looked terrible, thinner, older, stressed. Good, let him be stressed. He'd caused me months of stress. Now it was his turn. The judge called the case. Sterling's attorney presented first. "Your Honor, Sterling Chen is filing for emergency guardianship over his mother, Dolores Chen, age 79. Mrs. Chen has been exhibiting concerning behaviors, refusing family help, making impulsive financial decisions, isolating herself, showing signs of paranoia. Mr. Chen fears his mother is declining and may be under undue influence from parties who don't have her best interests at heart." The judge looked at me. I sat calmly, competently, showing no signs of decline. "Mr. Chen, present your evidence of your mother's incapacity." Sterling took the stand, testified about my refusal of help with jewelry management, my sudden changes to my will, My paranoid accusations about his wife. Your Honor, my mother used to be warm and generous. Now she's cold and suspicious. She had my wife arrested for trying to help. She got a restraining order against us. She's clearly not thinking rationally. Patricia cross-examined. Mr. Chen, when your wife tried to help with jewelry, what specifically was she doing? She was cataloging valuable pieces. Without permission, going through Mrs. Chen's belongings without asking. Correct. Well, yes, but... And when she was arrested, she was in your mother's home at 2 a.m. going through private files. Correct. She was worried. She was trespassing and snooping. Mr. Chen, isn't it true that you and your wife owe $340,000 in debt? Sterling's face went pale. I don't see how that's relevant. Isn't it true that you've asked your mother for money multiple times? That she's given you $157,000 over the past 6 years? That you've never repaid any of it? My mother was helping family. And when she stopped helping, when she refused to give you $5,000, you filed for guardianship. Isn't that true? That's not why. Mr. Chen, did you take out a $500,000 life insurance policy on your mother 8 months ago? Yes, but that's just being prepared. Prepared for what? For your mother's death. Mr. Chen, you're $340,000 in debt. You have a $500,000 life insurance policy on your mother. You're trying to gain guardianship over her. Your Honor, this isn't about protecting Mrs. Chen. This is about accessing her assets and potentially her life insurance payout. The judge's expression hardened. Mr. Chen, you took out life insurance on your mother without telling her. It's not unusual for adult children to have policies. It's unusual when combined with a guardianship petition and documented financial desperation. Mr. Chen, this court is very concerned about your motives. Then it was my turn to testify. I took the stand calmly. Patricia walked me through everything. My medical evaluation, my financial management, the pattern of Sterling and Janelle's manipulation. Mrs. Chen, are you capable of managing your own affairs? Yes, I have a master's degree in education. I taught for 33 years. I've managed my own finances since my husband died 22 years ago. My portfolio has grown from $180,000 to over $340,000 through careful investing. I'm not declining. I'm not incompetent. I'm protecting myself from people who want my money. Are you under undue influence from anyone? No, my niece Rosalind supports me, but she's not influencing my decisions. She's simply being honest with me. The only people who have tried to influence me are Sterling and Janelle, pressuring me to sell jewelry, move to assisted living, give them money. I resisted that influence because it wasn't in my interest. Sterling's attorney tried to cross-examine. Mrs. Chen, isn't it true that you've become paranoid? That you see malicious intent in normal family concern? No, I see manipulation disguised as concern. There's a difference. When someone goes through your jewelry planning to sell it, that's not concern. When someone breaks into your home at 2 a.m., that's not concern. When someone files false reports and threatens guardianship because you won't give them money, that's not concern. That's exploitation. But you've cut off your own son. I've set boundaries with someone who's trying to steal from me. That's not being paranoid. That's being smart. The judge asked me questions directly about my daily life, my health, my ability to manage money. I answered every question clearly, precisely, demonstrating complete competence. After 2 hours, the judge made his ruling. I've reviewed all the evidence. I've heard testimony from both parties, and I find no evidence whatsoever that Mrs. Chen is incapacitated or unable to manage her own affairs. She is articulate, competent, and clearly capable. The medical evaluation confirms this. Her financial records confirm this. Her testimony confirms this. What I do see is a pattern of harassment and financial exploitation by Mr. Chen and his wife. The breaking and entering, the false APS report, the pressure tactics, the life insurance policy taken out while drowning in debt. This guardianship petition appears to be motivated not by genuine concern, but by financial desperation. The petition for guardianship is denied. Furthermore, I'm extending the restraining order to 1 year and ordering Mr. Chen to undergo financial counseling before any contact with his mother is permitted. This court will not allow vulnerable elderly people to be exploited by family members seeking to access their assets. Mrs. Chen, you're free to continue living your life as you see fit. This hearing is adjourned. Sterling sat stunned. Janelle started crying, and I sat with Patricia, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Victory, not just winning the case, winning the right to live my life without interference. After the hearing, as we left the courtroom, Sterling approached me. The bailiff stepped between us. "Mom, please, can we just talk?" The judge said no contact. "I know, but Mom, I'm sorry. We made mistakes. We were desperate, but you're my mother. Can't we work this out?" I looked at my son, at the man who'd taken out life insurance on me while trying to gain control of my care, at the person who'd filed for guardianship to access my money. "Sterling, you stopped seeing me as your mother when you started seeing me as a bank account. You can't work that out with an apology. You destroyed our relationship. Accept it." I walked away, and I didn't look back. Outside the courthouse, Patricia turned to me. "Dolores, how do you feel?" "Relieved, sad, free, all of it." "What are you going to do now?" "I'm going to live, on my terms, without people trying to control or exploit me. Patricia, I gave them everything for years. And the moment I stepped back, they revealed who they really were. Now I know. And I can build a life that doesn't include them." "Are you going to try to reconcile eventually?" "No, some relationships can't be repaired. This is one of them. Sterling made his choice. He chose money over family. I'm just accepting that reality." 3 months after the hearing, I made several significant changes. I sold my condo, moved to a senior community 2 hours away, a place with activities, medical services, social opportunities. The kind of place Sterling had wanted me in, but on my terms, my timeline, my choice. I didn't tell him I was moving. He was still under the restraining order, couldn't contact me, wouldn't know where I went. I updated my will one final time. Everything to Rosalind and the scholarship fund. Explicit language disinheriting Sterling and explaining why. I am not leaving anything to my son Sterling Chen because he attempted to exploit me financially, filed for guardianship to gain control of my assets, took out life insurance on me while drowning in debt, and destroyed our relationship through systematic manipulation. This is not due to any impairment on my part. This is a conscious choice made with full mental capacity. I wanted it clear, in writing, why he got nothing. And I started a blog, The Stepping Back Project, writing about elder financial exploitation, about family manipulation, about setting boundaries, about what people reveal when the money stops flowing. The blog got attention. Other elderly people sharing similar stories, adult children confessing they'd exploited parents, advocates asking me to speak. At 79, I became an accidental activist, teaching people to step back, to watch what people do when you stop giving, to protect themselves from family who see them as resources. 6 months after the hearing, the restraining order expired. Sterling could legally contact me again. He didn't, never called, never wrote, never tried to reconcile. I wasn't surprised. Without access to my money, I had nothing he wanted. 1 year after the hearing, Rosalind told me Sterling and Janelle had filed for bankruptcy, lost their house, lost their cars, lost everything. The $340,000 in debt had finally caught up to them. Part of me felt bad. They were suffering, struggling. But a larger part felt nothing. They'd made their choices, lived beyond their means, tried to steal from me to fund their lifestyle. Now they faced consequences. That wasn't my responsibility to fix. 2 years after the hearing, I was 81, living in my senior community, running my blog, helping other elderly people recognize and resist exploitation. And I thought about that moment, when I decided to step back, to stop giving, to watch what they'd do without automatic access to my money. That decision had cost me my relationship with my son, had destroyed what was left of our family, had exposed painful truths I couldn't ignore. But it had also saved me, saved my assets, saved my independence, saved my dignity. I'd given them everything for years, and they'd taken it as their right, their due. The moment I stepped back, things shifted. They revealed who they really were, what they really wanted, what I really meant to them. Not a mother, a resource to exploit. And once I saw that clearly, I could never unsee it. The stepping back had been painful, but it had been necessary. Because some truths can only be seen from a distance. And some relationships can only be understood when you stop trying to preserve them and just observe what they actually are. I'd given them everything. Then I stepped back. And that's when things shifted. Not the way they'd planned, the way I'd needed them to. Into truth, into clarity, into a life where I was valued as a person, not a bank account. That shift had saved me. And I'd never regret making it. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 3 years after the guardianship hearing, I received an envelope in my mailbox at the senior community. No return address, just my name in Sterling's handwriting. Inside was a single piece of paper, a photocopy of a medical bill for cancer treatment, stage 3 lymphoma, patient name, Sterling Chen. No letter, no explanation, just the bill, and a handwritten note at the bottom. Treatment costs $185,000. Insurance covers $90,000. I have nothing. S. I sat in my apartment holding the paper. My son had cancer, advanced cancer, and he was asking for money to pay for treatment. Not asking directly, just sending me the bill, letting the implication do the work. I called Rosalind immediately. Did you know Sterling has cancer? What? No, when did this happen? I just got a medical bill in the mail. Stage 3 lymphoma. He needs $95,000 for treatment costs insurance won't cover. And he sent it to you. No note, just the bill. Rosalind, what do I do? What do you want to do? I thought about that question for a long time. What did I want to do? Part of me felt the pull. He's my son, he's sick, he needs help, I have money, shouldn't I help him? But another part remembered everything. The jewelry cataloging, the 2 a.m. break-in, the false APS report, the guardianship filing, the $500,000 life insurance policy, the systematic exploitation. I don't know, he tried to steal from me, but he's sick. Does cancer erase what he did? No, but it complicates it. Aunt Dolores, you don't owe him anything, even if he's sick. You didn't cause his cancer. You're not responsible for fixing it. But if I don't help and he dies? Then he dies knowing the consequences of destroying your relationship. Aunt Dolores, this might be manipulation too, sending you the bill without a letter, making you feel guilty without asking directly. He knows you. He knows how to push your buttons. She was right. This was classic Sterling. Not asking directly because then I could say no directly, just presenting the situation and letting guilt do the work. I didn't respond to the bill, didn't call, didn't send money, just sat with the discomfort of knowing my son was sick and choosing not to help. 2 weeks later, another envelope, this time with a letter. Mom, I know you got the medical bill. I know you're probably debating whether to help. I don't blame you for hesitating after everything that happened. I'm not going to apologize again. I've apologized. You didn't accept it. I understand why. What Janelle and I did was unforgivable. We tried to steal from you. We lied. We manipulated. We destroyed our family for money we didn't even successfully get. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for help. I have cancer. The treatment is my only chance at survival. Without it, I have maybe 18 months. With it, I might have 5 to 10 years. I don't have $95,000. I don't have anything. The bankruptcy took everything. I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment working retail to survive. Janelle divorced me a year ago. I'm alone. and I'm dying. I'm not asking because I deserve it. I'm asking because I'm your son and I'm out of options. If you say no, I'll understand. I'll accept it. I'll die knowing I earned this through my own choices. But I'm asking anyway, because maybe there's still some part of you that remembers I'm your child, that remembers the years before I became someone who'd exploit you. Please help me live. Sterling. I read the letter 5 times, cried through all of them. This was my son, dying, begging for help, acknowledging what he'd done but asking for mercy anyway. How could I say no to that? But how could I say yes? How could I give $95,000 to someone who'd tried to steal from me, who'd filed for guardianship, who'd taken out life insurance on me? I called my therapist, Dr. Sarah Kim. I'd been seeing her since the guardianship hearing, working through the family trauma. Sarah, Sterling has cancer. He's asking for $95,000 for treatment. I don't know what to do. What does your gut tell you? My gut says this is manipulation. That even dying, he's using guilt to get money. But my heart says he's my son and he's sick and I should help. Both can be true. It can be manipulation and he can genuinely need help. Dolores, the question isn't whether Sterling deserves help. The question is whether you can live with your decision either way. What do you mean? If you give him the money, can you live with potentially being manipulated again? If you don't give him the money and he dies, can you live with that choice? There's no right answer here, just consequences you have to accept. I thought about that for days, about consequences, about choices, about what I could live with. If I gave Sterling $95,000, I'd always wonder if the cancer was real or exaggerated, if the bills were accurate or inflated, if he'd used the money for treatment or for debts. I'd wonder if I was being a loving mother or an enabling victim. But if I didn't give him the money and he died, I'd wonder if I'd let my hurt override my compassion, if I'd chosen punishment over mercy, if I'd let my son die to prove a point. Both choices had consequences I'd carry forever. After a week, I made my decision. I called Sterling. Mom, his voice was weak, surprised. I got your letter, about the cancer, about needing money for treatment. I know it's a lot to ask. It is. Sterling, I'm not going to give you $95,000. Silence, then. Okay, I understand, I'm sorry I asked. I'm not finished. I'm not giving you money, but I will pay your medical bills directly. I'll contact your oncologist, set up a payment arrangement, make sure your treatment is covered. But Sterling, the money goes to the hospital, not to you. You never see a dollar of it. Mom, I don't care how the bills get paid. I just need treatment. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet, because Sterling, there are conditions. If I'm paying for your treatment, you're doing exactly what the doctors tell you. You're going to every appointment. You're following every instruction. And you're going to therapy, real therapy, to deal with whatever made you think exploiting your mother was acceptable. I'll do whatever you want. Mom, I just want to live. One more thing. This doesn't mean we have a relationship. This doesn't mean you're back in my life. I'm paying for your treatment because I can't live with knowing I let you die when I could have helped. But Sterling, once you're healthy, we're still done. This is medical mercy, not reconciliation. I understand. I contacted Sterling's oncologist directly. Dr. Lisa Park verified the diagnosis. Stage 3 lymphoma, treatment protocol, estimated costs. Everything Sterling had said was true. The cancer was real. The costs were accurate. He genuinely needed $95,000 for treatment not covered by insurance. I set up a payment plan with the hospital. $95,000 paid directly to them over the course of Sterling's treatment, not a dollar to Sterling himself. And I required proof of attendance, every appointment, every treatment session, every therapy visit. If Sterling missed appointments or failed to comply, the payment stopped. He complied with everything, went to every treatment, every therapy session, followed every instruction. 6 months into treatment, Dr. Park called me. Mrs. Chen, I wanted to update you on Sterling's progress. He's responding well to treatment. The cancer is in remission. He'll need ongoing monitoring, but the prognosis is good. Thank you for letting me know. Mrs. Chen, can I say something personal? Sterling talks about you in his therapy sessions, about what he did, about what he lost. He knows he destroyed your relationship. He's not asking for forgiveness or trying to get you to reconcile. He's just grieving what he threw away. I thought you should know. After the call, I sat thinking about Sterling grieving our relationship, recognizing what he'd lost, understanding it was gone forever. Good, let him grieve. Let him understand that actions have permanent consequences. That some damage can't be undone even with apologies and cancer and therapy. 9 months after I started paying for treatment, Sterling sent me a letter, not asking for anything, just updating me. Mom, Dr. Park says I'm in remission. The treatment worked. I'm going to live. I know I owe you my life. Literally, without your help, I'd be dead. I'm not asking for a relationship. I know that's gone. I'm just saying thank you for saving me even though I didn't deserve it, for being a better person than I was. I'm in therapy twice a week, working on understanding what I did and why. My therapist says I saw you as an object instead of a person, that I dehumanized you to justify exploiting you. She's right. I don't know if I can ever become someone different, someone who wouldn't do that, but I'm trying. Not for you. You've made it clear we're done. I'm trying for me, so I can live with what I did, so I can become someone who wouldn't do it again. Thank you for my life. I'm sorry for what I cost you. Sterling. I didn't respond to the letter, just filed it away. Another piece of documentation, another step in a journey I hadn't asked to take. 1 year after paying for Sterling's treatment, I was 82, still living in the senior community, still running my blog, still helping other elderly people recognize exploitation. And I received a call from Janelle, first time I'd heard from her in 3 years. Dolores, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from, but I need to tell you something about Sterling, about what we did. What is it? I'm in therapy too, court-ordered after the bankruptcy and the restraining order, and I've been working on understanding my part in what happened. Dolores, I was the one who pushed everything. The jewelry, the APS report, the guardianship, all of it was me. I know. You do. Janelle, Sterling doesn't have the strategic thinking for that kind of systematic exploitation. He's reactive. You're the planner. I knew you were driving everything. Then, why did you pay for his cancer treatment, if you knew I was the one who orchestrated everything? Because he's my son, and because cancer doesn't care who's guilty of what. Janelle, I helped Sterling survive. That doesn't mean I've forgiven either of you. It just means I chose mercy over revenge. I don't deserve mercy, but Dolores, I need you to know I'm sorry, really sorry. Not because I got caught, because I understand now what I did. I tried to steal your life, your autonomy, your dignity. I saw you as an obstacle to money we felt entitled to. That's unforgivable. It is, so why are you calling? Because my therapist says I need to make amends, not to be forgiven, just to acknowledge the harm I caused. Dolores, I destroyed your family. I turned your son against you. I tried to institutionalize you to access your money. I'm the reason you can't have a relationship with Sterling. That's on me, and I'm sorry. Apology noted. Is that all? Yes, I won't bother you again. I just needed you to hear that I know what I did, and I know it can't be fixed. After Janelle hung up, I thought about her words. I destroyed your family. Had she, or had she just exposed fractures that were already there? Sterling had gone along with everything, had executed her plans, had never questioned whether exploiting his mother was wrong. Janelle had driven it, but Sterling had participated. They were both guilty. The apology changed nothing. 2 years after paying for Sterling's treatment, I got news that surprised me. Sterling had written a book. Stealing from Mom, a memoir of elder exploitation and redemption. The book detailed everything. The debt, the manipulation, the guardianship filing, the life insurance policy, his cancer, my decision to pay for treatment anyway. All of it, public, for anyone to read. Rosalind sent me a copy. Aunt Dolores, have you seen this? I read it in one sitting. Sterling had written honestly, hadn't excused himself, hadn't painted himself as a victim, just documented what he'd done and the consequences. The final chapter was about me paying for his treatment. My mother saved my life after I tried to destroy hers. She paid for my cancer treatment while refusing to have a relationship with me. Some people would call that cruel. I call it mercy with boundaries. She taught me that love doesn't mean accepting abuse, that helping someone survive doesn't mean pretending they didn't try to harm you, that you can choose compassion without choosing reconciliation. I'm alive because of her, but I'll never have her back in my life. That's the consequence of my choices. I destroyed our relationship. She saved my life anyway. I don't deserve her forgiveness. I just hope I can become someone who would never do to another person what I did to her. The book was well reviewed, called honest and unflinching. Sterling did interviews, spoke at conferences about elder exploitation, became an advocate warning other families not to do what he'd done. He'd built a career on his crimes against me. I felt complicated about that, proud that he was trying to prevent others from making his mistakes, angry that he was profiting from a story that included my trauma. I called Patricia. Can I stop him from using my story? He's not using your name. He calls you my mother but never identifies you. And it's his story too, his crimes, his consequences. Legally, he has the right to tell it. Dolores, the question is, do you want to stop him? I don't know. Part of me thinks he shouldn't profit from exploiting me. But part of me thinks if his story prevents other elderly people from being victimized, maybe that's worth something. Then let it go. If the book bothers you, don't read the reviews. Don't watch the interviews. Just let Sterling do whatever healing he's doing without your involvement. I took Patricia's advice. Stopped following the book. Stopped tracking Sterling's advocacy work. Just lived my life. 3 years after paying for Sterling's treatment, I was 84. My blog had grown to 50,000 followers. I'd helped hundreds of elderly people recognize and resist exploitation. I'd built something meaningful from my pain. One afternoon, I received an email from a woman named Dorothy Chen. Mrs. Chen, you don't know me, but I'm Sterling's half-sister. His father had an affair before he married your mother. I was the result. I grew up not knowing Sterling existed until recently. I'm reaching out because Sterling gave me your blog address, said I should read your work, said you were the strongest person he knew. Mrs. Chen, I'm caring for my elderly father. He's declining, and my siblings are pressuring me to get power of attorney so we can manage his assets better. Reading your blog made me realize what they're actually trying to do. You saved my father from being exploited by teaching me to recognize the signs. I wanted to thank you. And I wanted you to know Sterling talks about you constantly, about what he lost, about how you saved him anyway. He's not trying to get you back. He's just trying to become worthy of the mercy you showed him. Thank you for the blog. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for saving my father from people who loved his money more than they loved him. Dorothy. I read the email 3 times. Sterling had a half-sister who'd found me through the blog, who'd been saved from exploitation by the same story that had destroyed my family. Full circle, my pain preventing someone else's pain. I responded to Dorothy. Thank you for reaching out. I'm glad the blog helped you protect your father. That's why I write it, so others don't have to learn the hard way like I did. That evening, I thought about everything. About Sterling exploiting me, about me paying for his treatment, about him becoming an advocate, about his book, about Dorothy being protected by my story. Had it been worth it? The pain, the betrayal, the destroyed family relationship. I still didn't know, but I knew this. I'd made choices I could live with. I'd stepped back when I needed to. I'd helped when I could. I'd set boundaries that protected me. And I'd built something meaningful from the wreckage. 4 years after paying for Sterling's treatment, on my 85th birthday, I received a package from Sterling. Inside was a check for $95,000, the exact amount I'd paid for his treatment. And a letter. Mom, this is every dollar you paid for my cancer treatment. It took me 4 years to save it. I sold the book rights, did speaking engagements, saved every penny. This isn't repayment. You can't repay someone for saving your life. This is acknowledgement that I took from you for years and you gave me life anyway. I know this doesn't change anything between us. I know we're still done. But I needed you to have this money back. Needed to prove I could give instead of take. I'm not asking for a relationship. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just saying thank you and goodbye. Live well, Mom. You earned it. Sterling. I sat holding the check. $95,000. The exact amount I'd paid to save his life. He'd given it back, not because he had to, because he wanted to prove he'd changed. I called Rosalind. Sterling sent back all the money I paid for his treatment. All of it. Every dollar. Took him 4 years to save it. What are you going to do with it? I thought about that, about what this money represented. Sterling's cancer, my mercy, his repayment, his growth. I'm donating it to an elder abuse prevention organization. The money he tried to steal from me will go to protecting other elderly people from people like him. That's perfect. Is it, Rosalind? I gave Sterling everything for years. Then I stepped back. Then I paid for his treatment. Then he gave the money back. And now I'm giving it away. What does that make me? Someone who knows the difference between being generous and being used. Someone who can help without being exploited. Someone who stepped back and watched things shift into truth. Aunt Dolores, you did everything right. You protected yourself. You helped when you could. You maintained boundaries. You built something good from something terrible. That's not weakness. That's strength. 5 years after paying for Sterling's treatment, I was 86. Still sharp. Still independent. Still writing the blog. And I received one final communication from Sterling. Not a letter. A dedication. His second book. After the theft, rebuilding trust when you've destroyed it. The dedication read, "To my mother, who taught me that mercy doesn't require relationship and love doesn't mean accepting abuse. You gave me everything. Then you stepped back. That saved both of us." I read those words and I cried. Not from sadness, from recognition. He finally understood what the stepping back had meant, what it had accomplished, why it had been necessary. I'd given them everything, for years, without question. And they'd taken it as their right, their due, their inheritance in advance. The moment I stepped back, the moment I stopped giving, things shifted. They revealed who they really were, what they really wanted, what I really meant to them. And in that revelation, I found clarity, found strength, found the ability to protect myself without guilt. Sterling had needed 5 years, cancer, therapy, bankruptcy, and 2 books to understand what I'd known the moment Janelle held my grandmother's brooch and called it gaudy. That when people see you as a resource instead of a person, the only way to see that clearly is to step back. To stop giving, stop helping, stop being available, and watch what they do without automatic access to what they want. Sterling had fought for my money, failed, nearly died, been saved anyway, and finally understood. The stepping back hadn't been cruel. It had been necessary. It had revealed truth both of us needed to see. And in that truth, painful as it was, we'd both found something real. Me, my independence and dignity. Him, understanding of what he'd lost and why. We'd never have a relationship again. That door was closed forever. But we'd both survived, both learned, both become people who could look back at what happened and understand it clearly. I'd given them everything. Then I stepped back. And things shifted. Into truth, into consequence, into clarity. That shift had destroyed my family, but it had saved my life. And 5 years later, I still wouldn't change a single decision. Because sometimes the hardest thing you can do is the only thing that works. And stepping back, watching what people reveal when you stop giving, is often the only way to see who they really are. I'd seen clearly. I'd acted accordingly. I'd survived. That was enough.